I want to go to Israel now. Our Jeremey Diamond is there. Good to have you with us, Jeremey. I want to start first on that humanitarian situation in Gaza, because Israel has long cited Hamas stealing supplies as a reason for restricting aid into the Gaza Strip. But a US AID investigation found no evidence of widespread theft. Have you seen any reaction to the findings there?
We have not. The Israeli military, continuing to repeat that there is well-documented evidence of Hamas using humanitarian aid to fund its militant activities in Gaza. But this USAID investigation and its findings of or its lack of findings of any significant stealing of aid by Hamas really just bolsters what we've been hearing from humanitarian aid organizations throughout the course of this war. The United Nations has long said that it's seen no evidence of widespread or wide-scale stealing of aid by Hamas. We've also heard from former Biden administration officials who have since come out publicly to say that they asked Israel for evidence of this practice by Hamas, which Israel has long decried, and that they were never presented with any evidence of the sort. And so, there's no question. I've spoken with a former hostage who told me that he saw stockpiles of humanitarian aid in the tunnels in which he was held. But that is something altogether very different from the large-scale stealing of humanitarian aid to a point where it would lead Israel to do what they have actually done, which is to create this entirely separate system through this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which they claim will keep the aid from Hamas. And instead, the result of that, we have seen, has been a chaotic distribution model in which we have seen hundreds of people who have been shot and killed by the Israeli military as they have tried to make it to those sites.
And of course, as the humanitarian situation gets worse by the hour, there doesn't seem to be any progress when it comes to a ceasefire. Negotiators have walked away, essentially. Why did they walk away? And what does the US president mean when he says they're considering other options to now end this war and bring the hostages home?
Well, I can tell you that I spoke earlier today with a source familiar with the negotiations who told me that it was an earthquake in Doha, Qatar, where these negotiations have been happening, when that statement from the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff came out last night, announcing that the United States was pulling back from these negotiations, withdrawing its negotiating team back for consultations, as Witkoff accused Hamas of not negotiating in good faith here. I can tell you that there's still some uncertainty about exactly what this means for the talks, even as we have heard the Israeli Prime Minister and President Trump suggesting that they are going to walk away from these talks altogether. Behind the scenes, I'm told that that's not necessarily the case. I spoke with a senior Israeli official who told me that in his view, this is not at all a collapse of these negotiations, but that rather it seems to be an attempt to try and jolt Hamas back to reality, back to the realm of what is actually possible in these negotiations, basically saying that Hamas's latest response, which was submitted on Wednesday, didn't come close enough to the Israeli position, and that is what seems to have prompted the decision by the U.S. and Israel to pull their negotiating teams from Doha, at least for the moment. And so what this will require, according to this senior Israeli official, is for Hamas to come back with a new response, with one that is significantly closer to the Israeli position. And that does seem to be the intention of this pressure tactic from the United States. But it also seems quite clear that President Trump is prepared to walk away altogether. The language that we heard from him today was quite stark, as he talked not about other diplomatic options for getting the hostages back and ending the war in Gaza, but rather basically making clear that Israel would have carte blanche to eradicate Hamas from Gaza, whatever that may mean, and effectively to pursue what could very much be an endless war in Gaza against a deep-seated insurgency there, with no real prospects of a negotiated outcome. So, there's no question that we are at a fork in the road right now. I think the next few days will make clear whether that fork was a collapse of these talks altogether, or whether there's the possibility of reviving them in the coming days.
Can only hope it's the latter. Jeremey Diamond, our thanks to you. Appreciate it.